I've got a big goal. I want to live to 100 years young, as long as I can still move, find purpose, and keep that optimistic spark glowing. And honestly, I believe I can do it without a single magic pill. Yoga, community, and science all point in the same direction. How we live today shapes how we age tomorrow. And that's exactly what we're exploring in this episode. So let's get started. Welcome to the Youthful Older Yogi podcast. I'm MJ Waddell, your host and founder of Share Yoga. I've been teaching, practicing, and loving yoga for nearly 30 years. I'm an advocate of movement, creativity, and staying healthy in mind and body after 50. It's never too late to start, and there's a lot of healthy years ahead. So let's start now. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Youthful Older Yogi. I'm MJ Waddell, the creator and founder of Share Yoga, and your host for this episode. I'm calling this episode Aging, Yoga, and the Super Ager Science. So this topic of super agers, quote unquote, I've been really digging into some research about, and the science of aging well, and how a few things can add to well-lived years, and like optimism, yoga, of course, and community, and they just might be the ultimate superpowers for a vibrant, long, healthy life. So you probably heard me say this before many times, that it's never too late to start yoga. Seriously, never. Whether you're 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 92, 3, 4, 5, yoga meets you right where you are. And science really backs this up in a big way. So there are certain physical markers that researchers look for to assess your future health outcomes. So things like grip strength, those things that you squeeze, I think they're called dynamometers or dynamometers. How quickly you can get up from a chair is also one of the markers. How easily you can get up from the floor, and how long you can balance on one leg. So these simple tests are surprisingly accurate predictors of your ability to live independently and maintain your quality of life as you age. And yoga, it just happens to boost every single one of those. So let's take one leg balance test. Can you stand on your leg for 10 seconds or more without falling over? So this is strongly linked to the risk of falling and overall longevity. So we have many, many standing poses in yoga they build leg and hip strength, foot strength, ankle strength. Just think of tree pose and warrior 3 with or without props. Also the transitions moving into and out of your poses, it trains balance and coordination, or simple standing flows and mindful movement. It keeps your brain in the game. So, like I said before, the grip strength test, yoga can build this sneaky upper body strength. Think of planks, think of down dog, and all those weight bearing shapes that we are on our hands and arms and shoulders. And then there's getting up and down out of a chair, and they call it the gait speed test. So how fast you walk and how easily you stand up from a chair are predictors, very strong predictors of your independence later on. And yoga, we definitely focus on leg strength, posture, and functional movement that supports us beautifully, just one breath at a time. And I am a very fast walker. I'm getting my gait back since I've had my hip replacements, and it feels so good. And a lot of people said, gosh, you walk so fast. I just enjoy walking fast. And now I'm kind of like, oh, this is good news that gait speed is a predictor of your longevity. So keep going on your walks and increase your gait speed. And hopefully you'll add some life, some years onto your life. And it's not just about physical health. You may have heard of Dan Buettner. I'm not sure the correct pronunciation of his name. You may have seen his documentary. It's called Live to 100, The Secrets of the Blue Zones. I think it's a 4-part documentary series. It's really, really an awesome series. And he is a National Geographic explorer and like a detective, and he studies longevity. So he went to these communities where people regularly live to be 100 years old and beyond. He went to places like Okinawa, Singapore, Loma Linda, Sardinia, and all of these places have a few things in common. All these people, they move naturally through their day. They're not necessarily going to the gym but they're in their gardens, they're in the kitchens, they're walking to see friends. They have strong social networks. They have people who know them, who need them, who love them, and they live with a sense of purpose. So community, connection, and meaningful movement it's like their fountain of youth. And also, Dan Buettner, he has a podcast out. So it's really a great listen. He has some guests on there. And again, he's always looking and promoting these blue zones and how people actually live to be 100 and beyond. Healthy, purposeful lives. They're not sitting down doing nothing. They're moving.
I wanted to pop in and thank you for listening to the Youthful Older Yogi. I love bringing you great guests, education, and ways to stay youthful in mind and body. If you love the show and want to help me make it even better, please consider becoming a supporter. You get to choose how much and how often you give, and there's no commitment. And remember, I donate a portion of every dollar I receive to charity. For 2025, I've chosen United Nations World Food Program. Just click the support button in the show notes. And just as helpful is sharing the show with others. Thank you again so much for listening. And now let's get back to the podcast.
And then here's another fascinating layer to add on to longevity. It's optimism. And so I looked into a couple studies. There's a large study out of Boston University School of Medicine, and I will have the links in the show notes. And researchers found that people with the highest levels of optimism were significantly more likely to live past 95. Optimism was associated with 11 to 15% longer lifespan, even after accounting for depression, socioeconomic status, chronic illness, and health behaviors. So I think that's a good reason to look on the brighter side of life and glass half full, all of those things. And there's been another study of over 150,000 adults, and they found that optimists didn't just live longer, they aged better. So they had stronger grip strength, and faster gait speed, faster chair stand-up times. You know how sometimes you watch somebody slowly get out of the chair and they're groaning? It's just, can you just stand up, without it being a really huge challenge? And of course, some people do have injuries or chronic illness that, prohibit them. But for most of us, it's just been sitting down, just get up and start moving. Get up and start moving. Let's see, also, these benchmarks, gait speed, grip strength, balance, getting up easily from a chair, they're physical benchmarks of functional independence. They don't have to rely on anybody or to help them. I have a great example. My dad is 94 this month, and he still rides his bike. He lives on his own. He drives long distances. He's very self-sufficient, and he is a mover. He's moving all the time. And he's got community, he's got some groups, and he's got family that love and support him. So he's 94. So I'm hoping I follow along Let's see, I'm 65 now. So about 30 years from now, all right, 29 years. It seems like a long time, but it's just going to go like that. So um, I just want to talk about a personal moment and how I've slowly become an optimist. And that kind of surprises me because after my divorce, I was the exact opposites. So that was 15 years ago. I was, oh gosh, my life has ended, and I'm going to stay in this funk of negative thoughts about my life, everyone else's life. Just, it was not good. It was not good at all. So, but some of you know that 4 months ago, back at the end of June, I had two both hips replaced. And if you are interested in that journey, you can watch the Hip Chronicles. It's on this episode. I chronicle the whole thing from beginning to 10 days after my surgery. And but rewind about 2 years ago, and I was in a lot of pain. I had to quit many of the things I loved, including so much of my yoga practice. I was still practicing, but it just many of the poses I had to take out, and everything that I had done with ease, that it was just suddenly they were gone. They were off the table. And then came the diagnosis that I needed two new hips. And I knew that would mean months of recovery, time off work, medical bills, and maybe the hardest part of all was relying on others for help. And honestly, optimism wasn't exactly my first reaction. It was more like fear, overwhelm, a touch of why me? How am I going to do this? So, yes, all that negative came in. But here's where my mindfulness and my yoga practice came in. I started to envision what my life would look like post surgery. So I pictured myself practicing yoga again with ease. And I imagined taking long beach walks, which I had previously done, riding my bike, getting in and out of the car without groaning, and even the simple joy of putting my pants on without having to lie down on my bed and orchestrate the whole thing. I was kind of like a stranded turtle on my back trying to put my pants on. I'm happy to report that I put my pants on now one leg at a time, standing up. Miraculous. So I'm doing all those things, and this optimistic visualization, it wasn't just wishful thinking. It's a form of practice, another form of practice, and a way of training my mind to look for what's possible instead of what's lost. And I know right now for many of us, it's really difficult to be optimistic with the state of the world and things right now. It can be a bit heavy. And even staying optimistic, it can sometimes feel impossible and disappointing. But optimism, like anything else, it's a practice and you build it over time. It's a skill and it can be trained. I found another well-researched and effective method to boost optimism, and it's called Best Possible Self, BPS. It's a very simple visualization and writing practice, and it's grounded in the science of positive psychology. So this technique helps you to rewire your brain to expect and pursue better outcomes. So as always, I've included the link in the show notes with the 4 steps of this practice, best possible self exercise. And there's data in there as well. Check it out and give it a try. It's really like 10 to 15 minutes. It's not hard. And you're supposed to do it 10, I think for 10 weeks, once a week, and see what the outcome is. So even if you're starting to be an optimist in your later years, research shows that picking up a practice, a movement practice, any type of movement practice like yoga, it leads to those meaningful improvements in strength and balance, mood, and the health markers sometimes within weeks. So you're not behind. You're right on time. It's never too late. You can start today. You can start with one breath, one class, one optimistic thought at a time. And if the idea of walking into a yoga class or any type of class that is new to you makes you want to run the other way, I get it. Starting anything new it's really scary because you've never done it before. And I think everybody wants to be good at it. And there's where that negative thinking comes in. The thinking of, I could never do yoga. I've heard it all. I'm too stiff. I can't touch my toes. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. And so to that, I say, perfect. So that's exactly where we'll begin. And if you are interested in any private sessions, one-on-one, or maybe with a couple friends, bring in your friends, start a community. I give online yoga sessions. I love teaching beginners. It's my favorite. I feel like I'm still a beginner. And so you can go to my website, shareyogawithmj.com, shareyogawithmj.com. And under the contact, you can just write me a note if you are interested or even curious, and I can help you decide if it's the right thing to do. No pressure, just you, your breath, and an optimistic, supportive space to begin. So let's be super agers together. And like I said in the intro, I do have a goal of getting to 100. As long as I am still moving with ease and I'm still feel like I have a sense of purpose, I'm aging well. So if my dad's any indication, I think I'm well on my way. And I am doing my best to stay optimistic. It's easier now that I can move and put my pants on. So I actually find myself smiling a lot more than I have prior to my surgery. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, listening, or watching. I'm very appreciative of it. You can always send me a comment, subscribe, like, do all those things that can help me get my podcast out to others. And until next time, just keep moving, keep breathing, keep that optimistic flame glowing, and keep sharing yoga. Namaste.
Thank you so much for listening. Now you can go to my show notes on YouTube or Buzzsprout and send me a voicemail or email. I'd love to hear what topics you'd like me to speak about, what your thoughts are on the episodes, and maybe I'll share your message on a future episode. Please subscribe to my website, shareyogawithmj.com, so you can receive my newsletters and be first to know about my retreats, workshops, courses, and freebies. If you navigate on social media, you can find me mostly on Facebook and a bit on Instagram at MaryJayne Waddell. That's Jane with a Y, Jayne. This podcast would not be possible without the help of my editor, Dan Jones from Cocoa Beach Productions. You can find Dan at cocoabeachweb.com. And of course, thanks to my generous guests who share their time, insights, and youthful wisdom. Remember, the Youthful Older Yogi podcast is presented solely for educational, inspirational, and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician or other qualified professionals. Okay, yogis, stay well, stay youthful, and keep sharing yoga.